Another year in more heartbreak last year for Baltimore. Ravens fans, of course, the two-point conversion fell. The ball is in Mark Andrews' hands, and they are sent home. Super Bowl hopes with such a prolific offense. I don't know if you know, but Baltimore has scored a combined 1,000 points the last two seasons, 500 points or more each of the last 2 years. The only other team to do that has been the Detroit Lions. These are the best two offenses in football next year. Of course, they square off. We will talk about that matchup and more. Of course, this is the 2025 Outlook preview predictions for the Baltimore Ravens. Well, it started off with the draft. They had a phenomenal draft. Malachi Starks arguably could be the best defensive player from the 2025 NFL draft. The same thing could be said about Mike Green, who they took in the second round. People had this guy as in the top 15 potentially as far as the picks go. Him there adding another terrific athlete for that defense with Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey. They added Jair Alexander in the offseason, as well as Kyle Hamilton, the all-pro type talent for Baltimore. Let's get right into it because this gets off to a blistering start for Baltimore. They're on the road, Orchard Park, against the Buffalo Bills. Sunday Night Football, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on the call for it. Everybody's ready unless you're going out there and you're a Baltimore, even a Buffalo fan, just getting ready for this matchup. This is a big one because immediately you have the implications of what will be the playoff seeding in this. Of course, that game was played in Buffalo. Would have been nice for that to be a home game for Baltimore a season ago. Obviously, the crowd can play an impact. It's not college football where it's everything, smaller stadiums, but still playing a game at home is huge. Like Baltimore had the AFC Championship game. Why I said heartbreak continuously for Baltimore is the year before that, of course, AFC Champ game and a disappointing loss to KC. I got a win against the Bills. Why? Derrick Henry, just the production. This guy stays healthy and continues to run the ball down people's throats. Lamar Jackson, of course, the exact same story. I think that there's production coming for DeAndre Hopkins, who they picked up, took him over from KC. He'd been with Arizona for a long time. Of course, we know him from the Houston Texans. DeAndre can still play, adds that element. Of course, we know about Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers being fundamental pieces. And, of course, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews at tight end, forming a top 5 NFL tight end duo. Week 2, it starts off great. You've got the Bills and then the Browns to give you a bit of a breather. A win against Cleveland. Why I say a breather? Because Baltimore has had some big losses against Cleveland in the past is the quarterback. Baltimore's got two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, and is it going to be Joe Flacco? Will it be Kenny Pickett? I'm just saying right now, as of the recording of this, it's been said Joe Flacco, but this is recorded a couple weeks before you are watching it, because when you're currently watching it, I'm checking out the Great Migration, seeing the water buffalo try to not get eaten by crocodiles out there on safari in Africa. Wanted to keep momentum going towards the season. A matchup against the Browns. That's a win. Quinshon Judkins poses an immediate threat as a rookie running back. Of course, Mason Graham could make things tricky for Derrick Henry, but he doesn't have to go through the middle. He can get off on the edges. They can run power. Of course, that's what the Baltimore Ravens are built on. That. And starting off the year as good as it can, 2-0 before a massive showdown with Lions. We teased it a little bit in the opening of this, but a home game against the Detroit Lions. How about a win, 34-21 on Monday Night Football against Detroit? Why do I think Jair Alexander is going to play a huge factor? He knows Detroit well. The experience of running with a speed like Jameson Williams, really, you just have to be up close and personal on it to see it and be able to be prepared. Marlon Humphrey, still a very good man to cover corner. And Mike Green, he's going to show up big in this game as a young player. On the Detroit side of things, they've got rookie Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, who they took in the first round. They took Ahmad Hassanein, the kid from Boise State, had like 23 sacks combined the last 2 seasons. He was a 5th, 6th round pick, one of those for Detroit. But a win emphatically. Why? Because of Lamar Jackson playing against NFC opponents. It is tried and true that he just about is a guaranteed lock to beat NFC opponents. Then they are at the Chiefs and that's another win. They move to 4-0 on the year. They go into Arrowhead and beat Kansas City. Confidence once more, establishing the run. Lamar and Derrick, and why? Because that can get you into short, manageable third down scenarios where you could even go for it on fourth and be able to pick it up, move the chains, time of possession, keep the football out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. And look, that's going to be a Chiefs team. I believe they might be bottom 8 in the league in time of possession. They're going to be taking a lot of shots. Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy is the fastest trio of wide receivers in the NFL. But again, like the savviness of having somebody there, like they got Sky Moore still, Juju, whatever. Like they have a fast offense, but like guys that can get separation, and Jair, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton coming down. We know that Kansas City's going to try and run the football, but that's not what they've been built in doing well. It's playing defense and letting Mahomes do his magic. Like a tight win, getting revenge on that week 1 loss a season ago against the Chiefs. Oof, that one still hurts. Texans in week 5. This is where their first loss comes. That Houston team, same exact thing. I talk about revenge. Players remember big opponents. They remember losses. Of course, in the divisional round 2 seasons ago, Houston coming off that first playoff win. CJ Stroud, phenomenal. And then it was close in the first half. Wasn't it tied like 14-14, 17-17 at the half? And then Baltimore just ran the Texans off of the track in that second half. This Texans team is legit. They might just be the best talent overall in the AFC this year. They're young, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to play at a high level. Just get that out of your head immediately. Will Anderson could be a top 3 defensive player in football next year, the way he is progressing. He looks like himself at Alabama and transforming it to the NFL level. Of course, Neil Hunter on the other side of him. In the back end, you've got Derek Stingley, just that young ability, rangy, can run with anybody. You would imagine, of course, he's going to be matched up with Flowers and running with him. And then in the back end, Kalen Bullock. And offensively, they went with Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins in the draft, the second and third round picks, the kids out of Iowa State that you might have never heard of, but you should and will during that game, given in 2 more options for CJ Stroud. A loss 30-17. 4-1. The matchup before the bye, it might be interconference and not as big as typical teams that you play in the AFC, but a game against a game against the Los Angeles Rams had them losing 34-29, an absolute classic, a top 10 matchup in just about anyone's opinion. These are 2 of the premier teams in the NFL at this point. You might not say that if you're a fan of Baltimore and aren't familiar with the game of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams in the divisional playoff a season ago. Ring your bell, all that snow. The Rams down by 6 with a ball at like the 19-yard line, threatening to end the Philadelphia Eagles' run to win a Super Bowl, and Stafford took a sack from Jalen Carter. Is all ended. But why do the Rams beat Baltimore and move the Ravens to 4-2 on the year? It's because of Jared Verse. This kid is built in a Greek God lab, and it's not just him. There's Braden Fisk in the middle, Byron Young, and then Matthew Stafford throwing to Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, well coached by Sean McVay. I got a Rams win 34-29 by coming at a very good time. A reset before you play a very physical Chicago Bears team. Don't get it wrong just because of all the sacks that they gave up. You might see the Bears stuff in the backfield. We're going to be impartial about this. The Ravens are a better football team. They've got the edge at quarterback, at running back. The defense is still great there, and Baltimore is going to continue to be. Roquan Smith trying to get some revenge against his former team. And Baltimore with Kyle Hamilton coming down to stop Colston Loveland filling in to the middle of the field. This is going to pose a very tricky task. Of course, Jair Alexander is familiar with Chicago, but this is a different offense that he hasn't seen yet. Ben Johnson, of course, Luther Burden out of Missouri, the 4.4 speed Roma Dunze, who's just a lost guy at this point in the NFL. after that rookie year, people just forgot of how talented and how effective he was as a wide receiver. Whenever Washington needed a big play, they went to Odunze. Whenever Caleb needed a big play last year, he went to Odunze when they were effective as this rookie duo. Tough out, but a Baltimore win, moving them to 5-2. In week 9, they're at Miami Hard Rock Stadium, Thursday night football. I'm very down in Miami. Not locked down, like it appears they don't even want to be there, looking for more money or another place to play. Is it because they don't believe in Tua Tagovailoa as a starting quarterback? No, I don't think so. I believe they think Tua is a pretty good guy. Is he making a bit more than what he's going to be deserved? That's not for me exactly to say at this point, because he has played good football. It's just been the injuries that have affected him. He's been highly productive as a quarterback there when he's on the field and healthy. It's just been the matter of beating the good teams at the sport. So I've got a Baltimore Ravens blowout 46-10, moving Baltimore to 6-2 on this season. Tough out here. Kenneth Grant in the middle of the Miami Dolphins defense. He is a force. Derrick Henry run a different direction, because Kenneth Grant he's not a man-child. He's a man's man is what he is. And just watch any of the film in any of the games he's played the last 2 years. Kenneth Grant in the middle and there with Mason Graham just doing all the dirty work. He's a phenomenal, talented, might end up being the best player out of everybody from that 2025 draft class. A 6-2 Baltimore Ravens heads on the road. They keep on this very strong streak. They beat the Vikings 36-14. It's the same story with the Lamar Jackson facing NFC teams. It's a cocktail combination that blows up in everyone's face when they're like, oh, I'm so convinced we have an idea, we have a plan, or it's like we're just going to throw what we can at Lamar Jackson, try and hope that we can stop him, because there's no way to replicate or simulate, as a better word I'll use, for Lamar Jackson than playing him. And him going into Minnesota is going to show Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, Van Ginkel, maybe a second-year Dallas Turner, who didn't play all that much last year, which is just a testament to how deep and good that Vikings defense was up front a year ago. Of course, the former first-round pick in 2024, but a win against Minnesota, and there's a masterclass on defense in clamping Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison at wide receiver, and the first-year starter, and J. McCarthy. The 7-2 Ravens in the thick of it, right there for the top seed in the AFC, face the Cleveland Browns. This is a huge spot. I've got them beating the Browns the second time on the year. Always tough to face a divisional rival. Of course, going to the Pound is a tough environment. They've got a sold-out crowd just about every single game. It's incredible. But a 23-6 win for Baltimore. They're able to stop the run and force whoever's at quarterback to throw to the limited receiver core of what they have. David Njoku, I really like. He's been highly productive, a good blocker. And then, of course, Jerry Jeudy. But the defense, like Mason Graham, that seems to be a year away roster-wise. Like, get that first-round pick that they have that will be their own, likely a top 10er. And then the pick from Jacksonville, which also will likely be a top 10er next year. That's when that roster is going to come back and elevate for Cleveland, but for next year, not so much. An 8-2 Ravens has a home game stretch against the Jets, against the Bengals, against the Steelers. This team is fired up, going down to the back end of the year, like heading towards the end of November, Thanksgiving, and then of course early December. So the Jets got him with a 26-7 win, beating the Jets. Justin Fields is that dynamic athlete, but they've got one threat throwing the ball to, and that's Garrett Wilson. Don't have a lot of confidence in Conklin for Fields. Of course, he's a threat with his legs, but that's why you drafted Malachi Starks. He can take that effectiveness. That's why you have Kyle Hamilton. That's why you have Roquan Smith, who knows Justin's game exceptionally well, and Mike Green. There's all of these athletes. when I've broken down a number of these videos against the rushing quarterbacks, is there one or two players on that defense that can run with the talent of a Jaden Daniels, of a Justin Fields, of a Lamar Jackson, and contain them? You can even throw Kyler Murray on that list. Being able to take the legs out of them, keep them in the pocket, and don't see the Jets being able to do that to Lamar, but the Ravens are able to do it to the Jets. 9-2 to play the Bengals at home on Thanksgiving. You've got great action on that day. Of course, Packers, Lions, that kicks it off. Lions at that first game on Thanksgiving. Cowboys, Chiefs. Every Ravens fan will be tuned into that, rooting for Dallas to get the win against Kansas City. Firmly in the race for that 1 seed. That's exactly what you need. You don't want to have to play Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow potentially. Two of those guys in the playoffs and have one or both of them on the road. Like, if you're going to have them and play them, might as well have it be at home. They beat the Bengals on Thanksgiving and moved to 10-2 on this season. Very thoroughly excited. This is the first matchup against Cincinnati. They play them 2 times in about 3 weeks there. The why they beat Cincinnati, it's a roster thing. Their defense is going to be prepared for the challenge of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase getting pressure on Burrow. Of course, he's one of the best processors of defensive information and getting the ball out in space, throw into a spot, but ultimately a Baltimore victory. And then it's Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers, one of the more intriguing matchups next year. I've got Baltimore winning, moving to 11-2 on the season, beating 22-17 on the back of Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry running the football. These boys are so solid when they're able to just lean on that, get them 5-6 carries in a row, establishing that time of possession, try and keep the ball out of Aaron's hands. And of course, that's easier said than done against a very good Pittsburgh D with Cam Hayward in the middle of there. They just got Derrick Harmon in the first-round pick out of Oregon, not Shedeur Sanders. They got a guy that can help stop the run. And then, of course, Jack Sawyer at edge, who will be trying to help out. There's Alex Highsmith, an underrated player in the NFL. And then, of course, who in my opinion has been the best defensive player in the NFL over the last 8 years, TJ Watt. Break down the stats between Garrett and TJ Watt. Almost every single category, I believe, except for pressures, does TJ have the advantage. The 11-2 Ravens at Cincinnati this time around. Believe that Cincinnati gets the better of this game at 27-21. A loss for Baltimore. The Bengals are able to hold them. Have a bit of familiarity, of course, but limit the Lamar Jackson leg impact, Derrick Henry, and make him stay in the pocket and throw the football. That's what you have to do. That would be my formula every single week. If we're going to have Lamar beat us, have it be from the pocket, stop Derrick Henry, limit him. Of course, Lamar is one of the best throwers of the football. Like, I'm not hating on him, but that's the formula, and maybe the only way to beat him is try and get some takeaways. The 10-3, the 11-3 Ravens at that point at home against the New England Patriots. Do not at all be fooled by New England. They are now coached by Mike Vrabel, and you remember Mike Vrabel. The Ravens were The Ravens had that first round bye, and they hosted the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans came in there and punched them in the mouth. That was a very good Ravens team, and they were not expecting that. And Derrick Henry, a lot of that probably has to do with why they wanted him on their team, is because of the way he played. Now, with Vrabel's philosophy, they will punch you in the mouth, like I mentioned, but also they're going to play smart. Not a lot of penalties, not going to be a lot of turnovers. Drake May is going to be smart with the football. We'll see him establish himself as a downfield thrower, but the amount of turnovers that he's going to be creating is not going to be all that many. And now they have Travion Henderson in the backfield and a stud left tackle and Will Campbell. It's a tough team to beat next year in New England, but have a win to push them to 12-3 on the season before a road game at Lambeau Field taking on Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love. Of course, there's like 80 receivers for the Green Bay Packers. They got their first rounder, first time in 20 years. Well done, Green Bay. Finally, you did it. And of course, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson coming back from injury. There's Romeo Doubs, Wicks, Kraft at tight end. But forget all of that. They want to run the football and time of possession, just like how they had been with Aaron Rodgers leading them, being the helmsman, the guy leading that team forward, the captain of the ship. That's what they want to do. But again, the NFC matchups, that's what we love. As Baltimore, a win, moving them to 13-3 on the year, and I believe locking up a first-round bye, and then a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-10. First-round bye is locked up for Baltimore. They don't need it. I do see them getting a 1 or the 2 seed in the conference, getting the first game as a bye or at home, and a loss against Pittsburgh at the end of the year. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, where I can improve, get you some better content in regards to the NFL for in the future, as well college football. I covered that a whole bunch. That's why it's fun to go through these predictions and talk about some of the college kids new to the game, which are going to certainly be already huge impacts, and they need them to be in Baltimore, in Starks, and of course in Mike Green. So let me know. Subscribe for more content going forward here. Would love to have you join this community I am trying to build. Make sure to stay tuned for more content in the future, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.